Take a deep breath and imagine this. Imagine a 9-year-old girl full of life, just living her life. The happy-go-lucky kind. Well, this young girl, on her way back from Mumbai with her father, spotted a geography teacher at the Khopoli food mall and did exactly what any kid would. She went up to her teacher and said hello. All was fine until the school started again. It was a geography teacher's class, and she called the little girl in front of the whole class. And let me just say this before I go any further. Convent schools make one of the finest and meanest girls. If you know, you know. Coming back to our story. Our little girl, she was standing in front of 70 to 80 convent 4th graders and a few around the teacher's table. Now this teacher told the little girl, when you came over to me and said hello, my dad later asked me who it was. And you know what I said? The little girl smiled and replied no. Now this teacher went on to explain her theory on different kinds of students. She said, there are 4 types of students, and you are a D student. And you know what that's supposed to mean? The little girl shook her head and said no. Now at this point, there was some chattering around the class. The teacher went on to explain that a D student means a dumb student. She said, I told my father I met a dumb student and smiled. The whole class giggled a little. So did the little girl. But she felt so shameful, the free-spirited, ambitious student in her was crushed. From that day onwards, the little girl tried to prove her worth in every single situation she could. Her self-esteem had dropped so low that it took her almost 7 years to get back at it. Now let's try to analyze a few facts here. Was the little girl really dumb? Maybe not. But what made her teacher think that was because she lacked academically. Just imagine if the teacher had reacted even a little positively, it would have helped the little girl's confidence. And if the teacher had taken positive actions rather than demeaning her, she would have gotten better academically. And who knows, maybe she would have even had fewer issues. Lacking academically and being dumb. Why are these two concepts used interchangeably? Lacking academically does not mean that one is intellectually dumb. And this is the very fact that the little girl had to prove to the society. It was just because she had, due to no fault of her own, a learning disability. It is said that every child learns at their own pace. Then why is it that more often than ever, that a child with a specific learning disability has been demotivated just for being different? I mean, did she really commit a crime, or are we as a society committing the real crime by judging and not only neglecting the child but also not providing them with the vital tools for learning, which not only hurts the child but the people around them? Let's try to understand what a learning disability really is. According to the US and Indian governments, a learning disability means a disorder in one or more of the basic psychological processes involved in understanding or using language. It can be spoken or written, which may manifest itself in an imperfect ability to speak, write, spell, or do mathematical calculations. So what does this really mean for a little girl? It means making common spelling errors, mixing up the middle letters like D and B, making mistakes while spelling there and there, interchanging the words while writing and stuttering while speaking, or not understanding the depth of object while walking, and so on and so forth. It's like the information is registered correctly, but their brain works faster than their hand, and they end up skipping over words and making mistakes, because the action is taking place faster, and it can make them jittery, restless, or anxious, which can in turn make them aggressive. 25% of the people with LD get aggressive. But that does not give us any right to assume that every child with a learning disability is aggressive. Learning disabilities of many kinds, like dyslexia, dysgraphia, dyscalculia, and many more. A learning disability cannot be cured or fixed, but appropriate support can help the child achieve things and help with the learning gap. A learning disability is not an intellectual disability. It is a disability related to learning, as the name suggests. So let's break the word learning and disability down. Learning is the acquisition of knowledge or skill through study, experience, or being taught. And a disability is a mental condition that limits their senses and or activities. One of the reasons that a child can have a learning disability is due to heredity, which means it's passed down through genes. And I know it can be a shocker for most of you here today. A learning disability is not due to an absent mother or father. We often try to blame others for the things that we cannot accept, which makes it harder for us to understand the situation that one could be in. People with learning disability don't really do this on purpose. Their brain is simply developed that way. We have been cultured in such a way that we have become blind to the fact that a disability does not mean the inability to do something, but the ability to do the same thing in a totally different way, or maybe something different from what a normal child would have done. A learning disability is really unique to each and every person who has it. That's the beauty of it. It can look different on everyone. So then, what can we do as a society instead of judging because we can't understand it? How about the next time you meet someone with a learning disability, ask them if you can ask questions. And if they do say yes, be kinder in the ways you ask questions. It's really not that hard. Maybe we can take the first steps towards respecting people and reducing the number of those little girls out there. 15% of the population have LD. Most of them share the same traumatic experience, which could have been avoided if they were approached with less judgment and more acceptance. So coming back to our little girl, when she went on to get a government certificate in order to have a writer, so that now she could write exactly what she meant rather than skipping on words, she entered the town of embracing who she really was, and she started looking at herself through her own eyes, rather than instead of others. She finally realized that there are always people who will try to bring you down, simply because they can't see you being yourself. Having a learning disability means it's a part and parcel of life. And more importantly, it is an aspect of you with no set boundaries to its unpredictability. Either you can overcome the state of denial, which will ultimately set you free on the path of acceptance, helping you become the best version of yourself, or you can stay stuck in the same vicious cycle of denial. Acceptance is the key to learning disability. Staying in denial makes it worse and can also step you towards depression because of others' judgment and the people around, and can frustrate everyone supporting them. Now the little girl is not so little anymore. She's faced a lot of judgmental looks, cried endlessly because of the pressure, dealt with the suppression, still trying to discard the judgment, and stopped herself from feeling down. But as her talk comes to an ending, she would like to thank all her bullies, because a part of her is here because of them. A part of her is here because of the amazing support system she has had. Her parents, her sister, some great teachers, some special educators, therapists, psychologists, her best friend, a few of her good friends, and Riddhi Devkar, her talent leader, for literally supporting her and helping her through. And lastly, the ground she stands on, her school. Trust me when I say it's not been easy. A part of her is here because of her experience. A part of her is here for all the kids who come under the spectrum of learning disability. She advocates for you. And lastly, I am here because of her. The little girl who spent 16 years building the confidence I have today. I am Vishwa Rajesh Adapawar with 16 years of experience with learning disability. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. This is just the beginning of my start.